you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to LaFleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Good evening. Thanks for watching the Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro. On this Monday, December 9, the Montreal Canadiens had won 2 games in a row, then lost on Saturday night. And they said, you know what? We missed that taste of winning. Let's go out there and let's do it again. And tonight they did. It wasn't easy. It wasn't pretty. But at the end of the night, they got the job done. The game went to OT and then to a shootout. The Canadiens beat the Anaheim Ducks by a score of 3-2 on goals by Patrik Laine on the power play again. His third power play goal in the last 4 games. He scores in 3 of them. The Canadiens win all 3. He doesn't score in 1. They lose that one. Do the math. And Kirby Dach, yes, Kirby Dach got a goal tonight. Then they go to a shootout. And on goals by Patrik Laine and Cole Caulfield in the shootout, the Montreal Canadiens prevail. And once again, a nice effort by goaltender Samuel Montembeault. The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Also, celebrate 14 incredible years of poker excellence at Playground with their anniversary poker series on now until December 16. This series boasts $850,000 in guaranteed prizes, including a $400,000 guaranteed main event. Don't miss your chance to be part of the action. Visit playground.ca for all details. And also brought to you in part by Bittt Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer. Perfect for chilly winter days. Only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can. Available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. It's ultra light, ultra refreshing. Of course, we've joined you a little bit later tonight. Why? Because this was one of those rare weeknight 7:30 starts on home ice, that is, because, of course, the Canadiens will play later games when they hit the road. But one of those rare home ice 7:30 starts, and the game went to OT, and the game went to a shootout, and that's why we're with you a little bit later. But now it's time for the Maguire Report.
The Maguire Report. Presented by Vago Italian.
And I can definitely tell you that Restaurant Vago on Green Avenue in Westmount, corner of the Maisonneuve, is a favorite of Pierre McGuire's and his mom, Sally, and myself, the Marinaro family. They've been open 23 years. Longevity. Very unfortunately, take a look around downtown Montreal and throughout the entire city of Montreal. There's a lot of restaurants that open and they close. Vago has been around for a very, very long time, over 2 decades. Not many restaurants can be open that long. That means that the service is great, the food is great, the pricing is great, private dining rooms for any occasion, birthday engagements, corporate meetings, plenty of free parking after 6 p.m. It's open Monday to Saturday evenings and lunch from Tuesday to Friday. Fresh quality ingredients. You'll be treated and greeted, by Tommaso at the door. Old Roll Italian Classics and New Italian, 1336 Green Avenue in Westmount. For reservations, call 514-846-1414. Pierre, how are you?
I'm excellent. Tony, how you doing?
You know what? I'm doing very well, and it's been a great month of December thus far for the Montreal Canadiens. Why don't we bring up the results in the month of December thus far and show everyone who's watching right now, all of our viewers on YouTube and Facebook, the schedule that's ahead for the Montreal Canadiens. The Canadiens had, they had to go out and take care of business, and they did. I'm just going to try and get it to Agnello and Sammy right now. I have. Okay, they'll bring it up the second that we have it. But I can tell you that the Montreal Canadiens opened up their month of December in Boston on a Sunday afternoon. It was a 6-3 loss. But then they came home for 5 straight games, Pierre. Mm-hmm. And it all started just over a week ago, or less than a week ago, versus the New York Islanders. They beat them by a score of 2-1 in overtime. A couple of nights later, they played host to the Nashville Predators. They beat them by a score of 3-0. Of course, they lost on the weekend to the Washington Capitals by a score of 4-2. They bounced back tonight with a 3-2 win in the shootout. And in 3 nights from now, they're going to host Sid the Kid and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Then they'll go to Winnipeg on the Saturday night. They'll come back to host Buffalo. A back-to-back, away first in Detroit and then home in Detroit. And then a couple of nights later, they're going to visit the Columbus Blue Jackets. And then they'll go into Christmas for 4 days off before going to Florida, then Tampa, then Vegas. But Pierre, there's a lot of winnable games here. And I brought that up on several occasions. And a lot of people have said to me, well, you say they're winnable for the Montreal Canadiens, but the other teams are saying the exact same thing. I get it. But the Canadiens are doing what they have to do, Pierre. They're winning most of their games on home ice.
Yeah, and they're getting performances from the right guys. You know, Patrik Laine has been worth his weight in gold, and he's been worth the wait. And you saw it again tonight. Lane Hutson going to the first power play made some massive difference. Look at the play that he made on the power play goal by Laine. He keeps the play alive, moves it over to Suzuki. Suzuki with the quick seam pass over to Laine, and the puck's at the back of the net. That is not taught at hockey school. That's a big-time play by all 3 players. You look at the goaltending from Samuel Montembeault after that power play goal. I didn't think Montreal was particularly good to finish the first period, but I thought Patrik Laine Samuel Montembeault was fantastic for Montreal. And then in the second period, I thought the Canadiens started to reel the game in. And in the third period, I thought it could have gone either way. And in overtime, it could have gone either way. The second part overtime, Anaheim was better. The first part overtime, Montreal was better. The thing that saved Montreal, a little divine intervention on the Troy Terry shot off the crossbar.
Yeah.
Outside of that, this was an entertaining hockey game. Was it pretty? No. There were moments where it was. I give Montreal a lot of credit. I just think they're going to keep getting better and better all the time.
You know, you brought up Patrik Laine's goal, and you brought up Lane Hutson. Lane Hutson's gets an assist on the play. And once again, Pierre, on the power play, you asked for it, you wanted it, you got it, Lane Hutson. You know that Lane Hutson entered the Montreal Canadiens record books tonight? Are you aware of that?
I am. He moved ahead of Chelios tonight.
That is correct. So last game, he tied Chris Chelios, a record that Chelios set back in 1984 for 6 consecutive games with at least a point for a rookie. Well, tonight he made it 7 consecutive games with at least a point for a rookie. And by the way, Pierre, he played 25 minutes and 11 seconds.
Only Matheson played more minutes. Yeah, only Matheson. Yeah.
You know, Pierre, you would know this better than anyone, but Lane Hutson played his 28th NHL regular season game this season. Played a couple last season, but it's 28. In the last 2 years, he played 38 games with Boston University, 39 games with Boston University, 27 games with the U.S. National Development Program, and another 27 before that. The naysayers said, you know what? He's small. He's thin. He's going to get pushed around. He's going to get absolutely destroyed. He's going to get obliterated. He won't be able to win those battles. He won't be able to sustain the rigors of an NHL schedule. Now, granted, an NHL schedule is 82 games, but 28 games in, this guy looks fresher than anyone. He goes out every night, and he's among the best players on his team every night, every game. That's special.
Well, I tried to warn you about him for a while. Here's the problem. And I understand we're in a totally different media age. I get it. I totally get it. The problem is people formulate opinions based on sometimes fraudulent reporting. People that never saw the kid play live, they're only watching it on tape. I can tell you right now, a lot of the experts that you're talking to or you're reading about, they were never at Boston University practices. Trust me, they weren't. I would have seen them. They weren't there. You talked about, all the games he played at BU. He was a target every night, and he survived every single night, and he pushed the pace every night. The last defenseman I saw in college hockey that was as dominant as he is, obviously, was Cale Makar. But if you were to ask me comparables, Brian Leetch, Adam Fox. The most recent would be Adam Fox. Not as big as either Leach or Fox, not nearly as powerful or as big as Cale Makar. That's pretty high praise, Tony.
So how do the Montreal Canadiens go on a power play when Patrik Laine scores? I'll tell you, it's actually Kirby Dach that drew a penalty, and we have to say that because we'll take issue with Mr. Dach a little bit later on, and then we'll end up praising him again. But it's Kirby Dach that drew a penalty, Pierre. He ended up having a goal in the hockey game as well. We know it's a gimme. He had a giveaway, which led to an Anaheim goal, which drove Marty St. Louis a little bit crazy. But once again, he bounced back with that goal that was given to him on a silver platter. I get it. But what did you see from Kirby Dach tonight? Did you see? We saw the good and the bad, right? We saw the good, the bad with the ugly. We saw everything. What did you see?
I also saw the coach trust him at the end of the game. He had him on the ice with Brendan Gallagher to make sure they put the game to sleep, which I was surprised that they did. But eventually, I think the coach is trying to tell the player, I trust you. Don't be afraid. Get out there and play. So I thought that was positive, but I saw some real good energy from him early. I saw him take a step back. I didn't like the penalty again. That's a bad penalty in the neutral zone. That was unnecessary. The defense had the puck carrier ready. Didn't have to do that. That hopefully will get better, but I saw more positive than negative from Kirby Dach.
Drew a penalty, scored a goal, took a bad penalty, a giveaway which led to a goal. Yeah. Unfortunately, once again, not a lot of success in the faceoff circle. Won 4 of 9 for 44%. The line, once again, Pierre, Marty St. Louis has been sticking with his lines now. Here's a coach who has a tendency to shuffle the lines, but he's been sticking with them. And he stuck with Suzuki, with Caulfield and Newhook. He stuck with Dach, with Slavkovsky and Patrik Laine, despite the fact that up until Dach's goal tonight, they hadn't scored as a line. Once again, it was a gimme of a goal. I mean, it's a bad mistake on behalf of Dostal, the Anaheim goaltender. But do you see anything from the line?
I see enough. I mean, you could see Slavkovsky had a couple chances where either a good goaltending or a good play by Zellweger separating him from the puck when he had one chance off the rush. Laine obviously is a threat every time he's on the ice. He had a great pitch and catch with Slavkovsky in the second period where they almost scored. Dostal made a real good save on Laine. This is just a thought, Tony. I wouldn't mind seeing they move Laine up to play with Suzuki and Caulfield. They move Newhook down to play center and move Dach over to the right wing. I'd like to see that as an experiment. I think long term that will play into a better part of a two-line attack than what they have right now. Unless he's on the power play, Patrik Laine, unless it's off the rush, not getting a lot of opportunity right now to score.
No, but Pierre, 1 week in for Patrik Laine, what's your analysis?
As advertised, you know, his shot's exquisite. Even the shot that he had today in the shootout off the pad and in off the post, that's going in even if it doesn't touch the foot because it's just so quick. It's milliseconds. It's not a second. It's milliseconds of how quick he releases a puck, and it makes such a massive difference. That's the difference between success and failure for a player like that. His one-timer off that cross-seam pass by Suzuki was spectacular. You know, just there are not a lot of guys that can make that play from that angle, and he's able to do it.
Pierre, he's re-energized the city, the fan base, the team. I think everyone in the Canadiens organization. I said this a couple of times, but you take a look at the players' reactions when he shoots and he scores, and they're laughing and they're smiling and they're happy, and the bench. And after he scored in the shootout tonight, they're kind of like in admiration of him. They look at him like he's the Godfather.
Well, I don't know about that part of it, but here's what I would say. They know the trials and tribulations he's gone through, and they're human beings, and they care about him. Right now, they're cultivating an atmosphere around that room, and I think he's a big part of it. They're human beings. They're mostly, and I know most of those guys in that team. They're mostly real good guys. Tony, I had an amazing visit with Brendan Gallagher at the Hockey Hall of Fame the night of the inductions. A lot of the Canadiens players were there. And Nick Suzuki was there as well. But you could see the pride that Brendan had in wearing the Canadian sweater as long as he had. And obviously Shea Weber was there, and they were there to acknowledge Shea. But Brendan and I had a really good talk, and I could just sense that something positive was going on there. He wasn't a jaded old player who said, you know what, I'll get my paycheck and I'll be out of here, and that'll be it. That wasn't him. He's really proud to be part of this group, and he's proud to be part of the Montreal Canadiens.
Pierre, I'm getting some quotes coming out of the Montreal Canadiens locker room, of course, post-game. You want to know what Lane Hutson had to say regarding his record for 7 games with an assist as a rookie defenseman?
I'm going to say, he says, I probably haven't scored a goal yet. That bothers me.
No, he didn't say that. He said it's definitely pretty cool. Yeah. But the guys that really get remembered are the guys who win a lot of hockey games and really do something that's special here.
Well, I think there's a lot that goes into what he learned from his family and his father, who's been around hockey rinks and manages hockey rinks, his brothers, who have been, one's at BU now. Well, 2 of them are BU now. And then the coaching he got at Boston University. Jay Pandolfo's a heck of a coach. And he was around, whether it's Macklin Celebrini, whether it's Luke Tuck, a lot of really good players there. Tom Villander, who's going to be playing for Vancouver. So many good players.
Yeah.
Cade Weber is part of the Leafs organization. I think he learned a lot at BU about what you're talking about. I really do. They were so close to achieving their goal, and they never got there, but they were close. And I think he realizes, it's the winners that get all the acclaim. And that's a really good quote from him.
Pierre, I know you had Jack Hughes' dad, of course, on the Sick podcast, the eye test. And, that family, he and his wife, they did pretty good job with those 3 kids. But I think it's safe to say that Lane Hutson's parents did a great job with their kids as well. All right, okay, let's take a look at the Montreal Canadiens lineup that started this hockey game tonight. Suzuki with Newhook on his right and Caulfield on his left. Dach with Laine on his right, Slavkovsky on his left. Dvorak with Gallagher on his right, Anderson on his left. Evans with Armia on his right, Heineman on his left. Hutson, Matheson, Gooley, Barron, Jack-Eye Savard, and Samuel Montembeault in goal with Kaden Primo backing him up. Let's take a look at the Anaheim Ducks lineup. The Ducks had Strome. That's Ryan Strome with Terry on the right and Vetrano on the left. By the way, I thought Terry was the best player in the hockey game tonight.
He definitely was. Offensively, he was the most gifted player in the game.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. He was dangerous every time he had the puck. McTavish with Leeson on his right and Killorn on his left. Lundestrom with McGinn and Cutter-Gauthier on his left. Harkins with Colangelo and Johnston. Fowler, Trouba, Dumoulin, Gudis, Lacombe, Zellweger, and Dostal was your goalie with Gibson backing him up. I really like Zellweger on the fence too, Pierre.
Yeah, it's hard not to. He
Yeah.
and Lacombe are going to be real good players long-term for that group. They've got some kids coming up through the ranks. They've got a young kid playing at Harvard right now by the name of Ian Moore, who's a second-round pick, who's not that far away. He'll remind you a lot of a younger Brian Dumoulin. He's a very good player. So they've got some guys filtering through their organization. Their amateur scouts have done a great job for Pat Verbeek. They really have. So they've got some guys. The one thing I'd say, as the game went along, you started to see Cutter-Gauthier started to dominate the puck a little bit, Tony. And as we get to the second part of the season, he's going to start to dominate offensively. I can start to see it now from him. He had a terrible start to the year, but the last 10 to 12 games, he started to really pick it up.
Pierre, what do you think the Anaheim Ducks are going to do with Trevor Zegras once he comes back? Is he, 6 months ago, a year ago, we were talking about a player that was most likely on the block. He was not traded. He stayed in Anaheim. And is he part of that core going forward, in your opinion?
I don't think so. You asked me about him a year ago, and I don't know what your fans said, but I don't think my opinion was very popular. And I said he's not a fit in Montreal. And I'll stand by that. He was underachieving. I know the talent level. I know where he's from, and I know where he played before he went to Avon Old Farms and before he went to the Hot House program in Michigan, before he went to BU. I've watched him all the way along. Unbelievably talented player. I just don't think he's a fit in Montreal. There's some guys that are. There are other guys that aren't. I don't think he is. Do I think he was on the block? 100% I do. 100% I do.
All right.
I don't know how bad his injury was, but that didn't look good. When he went down, I mean, there was nobody around him. When he went down bad. We
hope that Jake Evans, speaking of injuries, is okay because he got hit in the shoulder in overtime and he labored to the bench. And he looked.
I'm glad you brought that up because that didn't look great at all. And Jake's a tough kid. Jake's a real, and if that's a loss, a long-term loss for Montreal, that's significant. Now, people are going to say, yeah, but it opens up a spot for Owen Beck. I don't know if they're calling Owen Beck up or not, but I'll tell you one thing. He's a heck of a player.
Yeah.
Right now.
Pierre, once again, you brought up Patrik Laine, who scored his third power play goal in the last 4 games, the 3 games in which he scored. They won all 3. He makes the power play so much more dangerous now because other teams used to watch Cole Caulfield all the time. Now they got a guy on Caulfield. Now they got a guy on Patrik Laine. If they're going to be double teaming both, it's going to leave 3 other guys open. I think it's really the options that he gives that power play. The power play was good before he arrived. They've cranked it up a gear now.
Well, there are a few things. You've nailed most of them. Suzuki's such a crafty passer, and you saw that on the cross-seam pass to Laine. It was a no-look cross-seam pass, not easy to do. Very few players in the league can do that. But what's really changed it is, yes, Laine, I totally cede you that point, but the dominance up high and the possession time of Lane Hutson is just – it's a totally different power play when he's out there. You could have Laine there and still have the other guys that used to be there. It wouldn't be Laine wouldn't be getting the execution that he is right now. Hutson makes the entire difference there. It totally makes the difference. And I'll tell you right now, the Washington Capitals, I know I've used this with you before, Tony, when they had the number 1, number 2, or number 3 power play in the league, everybody looked at Ovechkin, everybody looked at Carlson. The guy that ran it was Nicholas Backstrom. And your guy that's running it now, the quarterback, is Lane Hutson. And that makes a massive difference when you have one guy that can run it like that. In New Jersey, they have the number 1 power play in the league. You know who's running it? It's Jack Hughes. It's not Dougie Hamilton. It's not Jesper Bratt. It's Jack Hughes. You got to have one guy that can run it, and then everybody else looks better.
Let's take a look at the game sheet if we can, and take a look at the goal scores. Patrik Laine scores on the power play 2 minutes and 36 seconds into the game. The assist going to Nick Suzuki and Lane Hutson. Patrik Laine once again, one-timer. Bang. Terry assist going to Fowler and Harkins. And in the second period, it was Terry again with his second, this time on the power play with the assist going to Vetrano and Killorn. And Kirby Dach, 11 seconds after the Anaheim Ducks take a 2-1 lead, he gets a gift as Dustal mishandles it. And Juraj Slafkovsky picks it up and then just gives it right in front of the net to Kirby Dach. And Kirby Dach said at the end of the game that something to the effect of Pierre that, he absolutely needed to be an empty net for him to score the way things are going for him right now. But who knows? It might be. Here we go. He also said on receiving support, you feel the family, the love, and the trust we have in each other as teammates, and what we are in this locker room when guys are happy for other guys' success. It's really nice of everyone to help me through this stretch that I've gone through. Pierre, you've seen players on his goal once again. It's kind of the only way I was going to go in. It was going to go in, I guess, was to have the whole open net in front of me. So it was nice. Pierre, you've seen players sustain ACL and MCL injuries. Mm-hmm. How long does it take them before they start feeling comfortable? And is there a chance that throughout his struggles, part of it, and only Kirby Dach knows, I get it, but fear of re-hurting that knee again, fear of going to the corners and playing physical and getting roughed up, and maybe all of a sudden that knee gives out on you? Talk to me about players coming back from that kind of injury.
Well, fear about getting your skate caught in a rut and your body going one way and your leg going the other. There's a lot of fear. There are a lot of different things. You touched on some of them, correctly so, Tony. I don't know time frame because every guy heals differently and every surgery is a little bit different. You say, well, you had an ACL and an MCL, you had a total blowout and they had to redo everything. Some guys are back quicker than others. Some guys just heal quicker than others. He's a big guy. He's a long guy. So I don't know what happens there. And I have not talked to him for probably at least over a calendar year. So I don't know how he's feeling. But here's what I would say is I saw and I have seen him getting more engaged. I still think the skating has work to do. And I think he would be the first person to tell you that. But when he is moving his feet, he's serviceable. That's why I would shoot. And I know the Canes didn't bring him in there to be a winger. I know that. And we all know that. But I think for the time being, you may want to move him over to the boards and get Newhook get Newhook at center because his skating can matter, and you move Laine up. And then I think you got a line that might be unstoppable with Suzuki, Caulfield, and Laine. You really might.
You know, Caden Gooley tonight had a little bit of nasty in him, and he was challenged by Strome, and he said, "Okay, you want to drop the gloves? Let's go." Woke up a little bit later on in the fight, and at one point really let him have it. He had 4 hits at tonight's hockey game. Was very physically engaged, Pierre.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I totally agree. I like Caden's game a lot. He's as advertised too. He can play the right side. He can play the left side. He makes a huge difference. Now, here's the one thing. I was surprised. I don't know which broadcast you watched. I watched the English version because I'm down in Boston right now.
And I watched it on RDS, Pierre.
Okay. I don't know if they brought it up, but Jacob Trouba, that was his first game playing for Anaheim. It was about a month ago in Montreal that he just wiped out Justin Barron.
Yes.
And Mike Matheson stepped in there and fought him. And I was surprised. I never heard anything brought up on the broadcast about that. I don't know if it was brought up on your show or not, but I would have thought that somebody would have gone after Jacob Trouba to say, "Welcome back to Montreal, big fella."
Yeah, well, it happened when he was playing with the Rangers, right? Josh Anderson went after him.
But he's still a player.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what color sweater he's wearing.
I have to tell you that earlier today when I found out that Jaden Struble wasn't going to be playing in this hockey game and Justin Barron was, I was like, okay, Barron can't sit out all the time. He's a young defenseman. Right. He's got to play his share of games. But I thought it was weird that the Canadiens were going up against a team that had Radko Gudas and had Jacob Trouba, 2 really hard-hitting defensemen, and the Canadiens took their hardest-hitting defenseman out of the lineup, and not only that, to insert Justin Barron, who suffered, that concussion about a month ago versus Trouba. I thought it was weird. Now, all's well. It worked out well for the Canadiens. Caden Gooley imposed himself physically. Yeah. Gudas and Trouba didn't do damage on anyone, really. It wasn't all that bad, but so that's okay. And by the way, Pierre, look, I don't know what's happening with the New York Rangers, and I don't know what's going on in their locker room. But if they wanted to let everyone know that Jacob Trouba was their problem, tonight they lost on home ice to the Chicago Blackhawks by a score of 2-1, and they were booed off the ice by their fans. I think there's a much bigger problem than Trouba in New York.
Oh, no, we agree. I watched their game yesterday, and I watched their game tonight. They had a 3-1 lead over Seattle yesterday, and they got beat. They got torched after they went up 3-1. They got wiped out. And tonight, they didn't look good. They didn't look good at all. There's something definitely wrong there. There's no question. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens, what shakes out there. And I think what happened more than anything else, we talked about Laine coming into the Canadiens dressing room, Tony, and the difference he's made for the guys and how it's kind of bonding their group. I think last year when they announced that they were going to trade Trouba and ask him to waive his no trade, I think that ticked a lot of guys off in New York. I do. And I didn't like the way it was handled last summer, and I still don't like it. And I think the Rangers made a serious miscalculation. I really do.
Pierre, speaking of the Rangers, Sens owner Michael Landauer isn't happy about soft tampering in light of the rumors last week on Brady Tkachuk and the Rangers. I'm reading that off of TSN Hockey's Twitter account. And Frank Saravalli tweeted the statement from New York Rangers on alleged soft tampering by the Senators owner Michael Landauer on recent reporting that the Rangers were targeting Brady Tkachuk. This is an irresponsible accusation, and we defer to the commissioner's office. What can you add, Pierre? Obviously, Brady Tkachuk is being linked to the New York Rangers. The Senators say they don't like it. It's tampering. The Rangers are saying, you know what? We're not doing anything wrong. We're not tampering at all. Have you heard? Look, anyone would be interested in Brady Tkachuk. I get it. Have you heard anything about the Rangers being interested in Brady Tkachuk and pursuing that?
No, but here's what I will tell you. There's no such thing as soft tampering. It's just like you either are pregnant or you aren't pregnant. You're not halfway pregnant. You either are or you aren't. You either tampered or you didn't tamper. There's no such thing as soft tampering. So I think what the Rangers said is absolutely true. Here's what you need to know. I'll take you inside a managerial office. You have pro scouting meetings. You have game planning every day. What do we need to do to make our team better? What do we like about our team? What don't we like about our team? If we don't like something on our team, what do we need to make our team better? Which player, which organization, where's a fit? What are we going to do? You talk about names and players all the time. You have depth charts of every single team in the National Hockey League. You have players and their numbers and their contracts, the length of their contracts. They shoot right. They shoot left. Are they 24? Are they 36? Are they eligible for unrestricted free agent? Or are they not? So all that stuff's in your office every day. You have files of it. You study it every day. And there's no such thing as soft tampering. That was, I think, and I like Mr. Andlauer a lot. I really do. Going back to when he was part owner of the Montreal Canadiens, that was not an appropriate comment.
All right. Okay. We talked about Patrik Laine before, and now we're talking about the New York Rangers. The one thing the Rangers were able to do is sign unrestricted free agents like Panarin, be able to make a deal for Adam Fox, because he said, if you're going to trade me, Carolina, I want to be traded to the New York Rangers. Patrik Laine wanted to be traded to the Montreal Canadiens. He was open to that. He told Sports on Prime Canada, Prime Television, who brings you Monday Night Hockey now, he told them after the game, it's the most fun I've had in years. That's going to resonate around the league, Pierre, right?
Oh, my gosh, yes. And I even thought the first game was fantastic. The way the crowd reacted made me really proud to be a Montrealer. To be watching that from Boston, see the reaction of the crowd when he scored, it was awesome. I was bullish on the move when they did it. I just thought there'd be a timing issue for him because he hadn't played in a while. And he had gone through some trials and tribulations away from the ice as well. And you can see he's getting his timing more and more. And he put himself in a good position to work through it. And the Canadiens supported him. But your point is so good, Tony. The truth is that this will resonate around the league. People will hear those sound bites. Agents will hear those sound bites. The Canadiens have always been a first-class organization. They always have been. They always have been.
And Lane Hutson says Patrik Laine is something else. He's a special talent. He's so fun to play with. It's so fun getting him the puck. It's just so fun playing with him. And you can feel that. Really, you can.
But, Tony, isn't it fun to see a guy like Lane Hutson who can dominate the puck and lift people out of their seats? I talked to you about it. You were kind of like, I don't know, he's a little small. Tony, this guy's electrifying. This has made a massive difference for this organization. Wait till Demidov gets there. There's so many guys. Wait till Owen Beck's ready to play at, 82 games at the NHL level. Joshua Ottawa. Wait, they've got so much coming. Michael Hayes. This is an exciting. If you're a fan of this team, you got to be jacked up.
Pierre, he's the most exciting Canadiens defenseman since PK Subban, and Patrik Laine is the most exciting Canadiens forward since Alex Kovalev.
That's all you need to say.
Those four players had a buzz factor. Those players before them had this it factor, and there was a buzz around them every time they picked up the puck. And Subban's gone, and Kovalev's gone, but now Laine's here and Hudson's here, and it's the same thing all over again. It's the same kind of effect. Get your questions ready for Pierre McGuire. You can ask them to ask Pierre, or you can also give us a call at 1-888-585-SICK. That's 1-888-585-7425. And Sammy is at Master Control, and Sammy will patch you through. So once again, do that. In the meantime, a shout out to Betway. Go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200. If your first bet loses, scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. Offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offer is not available in Ontario. You must be 18 years old and over, and please play responsibly. So once again, some questions coming in. Owen Beck is turning into a monster, says Matrix Real, who's not a question, but it's a statement. And he says, keep an eye on Owen Beck. Pierre, you've been talking about him as well. He's an NHLer in your opinion, there's no doubt.
No doubt. I think probably on an elite team, he's probably a 3 at center. On a team that's a playoff team, he's probably a 2. Team a non-playoff team, he's a 2. But I'd say on a top-end team, he's a really high-end 3.
Pierre, it's probably too early to ask this question, but Slimesy asks it anyway. What could Patrik Laine's next contract look like? He who is paid $8.6 million this year and $8.6 million next year. Pierre, somebody tweeted this last week, and I don't remember who it was, but it was pretty appropriate, saying the Canadiens have Patrik Laine in his prime age years. Isn't that something? What could his next contract be like, Pierre?
Depends on if he continues this. Depends if whether he gets hurt or not. But it obviously would be more about, I think, years of service. I don't think the number is going to go up much higher than over 9. I just don't see that. He's not a centerman, and he's more of a specialist. I would say this comfortably, he's a boutique hire in the league. He's a guy he's a specialist. He's one of those specialist forwards. That's probably between 9 and 9.5, maybe 10 million a year.
So he is the highest paid Montreal Canadiens forward. He's the highest paid Montreal Canadiens player on the team right now, but it's a contract that was obviously given to him by the Columbus Blue Jackets and not by Kent Hughes. If he continues to score with regularity within a year from now, if the Canadiens choose to extend them, you see him being once again the highest paid player in the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, just based on where the only one that could come, well, he's coming out of entry level, so Lane Hutson would be paid highly, but not as high as where Laine would be.
Shadid is on line 1. Shadid, are you there?
I am there, my friends. How you guys doing?
Very well. Say hi to Pierre McGuire and ask your question. Go ahead.
Hey, Pierre. I wanted to ask about Slafkovsky. So my friends and I, we're the biggest Slav fans. But I feel like it's starting to get to the point where I don't know if it's confidence, but I'm curious to get your take on what you've kind of made about his progression. I guess from my perspective, I find that maybe he's missing Suzuki a lot. I understand that we're trying to mix a lot of the talent across the lines, and that line 2 is a big, big line. You got big bodies, but I'm curious to see what you make about his game, his development, or maybe lack thereof this season.
Well, first of all, Shadid, thank you very much for the call. I really appreciate it. Secondly, I agree with you. I don't think he's going in the right direction right now. I did see spots tonight where he was very good and other spots where he wasn't. Obviously, the aggressive forecheck play on Dustel that leads to the goal out front for Kirby Dach is a good play. There was another play that he made to Patrik Laine in the second period off the rush that I thought was a really good play. He's got to start dominating the puck in confined areas and start moving his body. They should be showing him tapes, and people are saying, come on, really? Yeah, really. They should start showing him tapes of Jaromir Jagr and how he dominated games. And he was playing on the third line a lot in Pittsburgh when he was 18 and 19 years old. He wasn't playing with Mario, and he wasn't playing with Ronnie France. He was playing with Brian Trottier and Troy Loney. I'd be showing him a lot of tapes of when he was a kid and how he dominated board play. Slafkovsky's got to become that kind of a player. And that's what the coaches have to be preaching to him all the time. But you're not far wrong. It looks like he's lost a little bit of confidence, Shadid.
His skating's a little laborious, Pierre.
Well, no, he's not moving his feet. I've seen him move his feet. Tony, this guy was the MVP of the Olympics. I know there weren't NHL players at the Olympics, but he was the MVP. Tony, you can ask Marty Lapointe. He was there with me when Slafkovsky was playing in Turku in Finland. There was never an issue in terms of pace to his game. He could play at that pace, and that's a fast pace in Finland. The Finnish Elite Series is a fast-paced league. He's just got to get back to moving his feet. I think he's overthinking the game, Tony, rather than just playing the game. I think he's overthinking it.
We got to be honest, too. I mean, they have him on a line who with the most struggling forward on the team.
That's fair to say, and I don't want to pick on him because that kid's trying to push himself to be better, talking about Kirby Dach.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I hear you. Thank you, Shadid, for the phone call. We appreciate it. We'll open up the lines once again at 1-888-585-SICK, 1-888-585-7425. Marinaro and Pierre McGuire. Let's go to Kirk. How you doing, Kirk?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Very well. What's on your mind?
So I was just wondering, if we don't get a top 5 draft pick this year, do you think we have enough prospects in the bank for a good rebuild?
Yes, sir. Kirk, absolutely. Jacob Fowler got another one tonight in goal for Boston College against University of Massachusetts Lowell, who's one of the top surprise teams in U.S. college hockey. So the goaltending is covered off. Fowler's as good a prospect as there's been probably since Marty Brodeur in that position. I'm not kidding you. Obviously, Demidov is an elite prospect that I'm sure the Canadiens are salivating over. Michael Hayes has been great. The entire Michigan team was not very good this weekend. They played at University of Minnesota. They lost 6-0 and 2-0. They got blown out in a 2-game series, but Michael Hayes has had a phenomenal rookie year. in the NCAA. Owen Beck is an elite prospect. I would say he's a B+ to an A-level prospect. Joshua Roy is a very good prospect. Luke Tuck, Florian Jack-Ayi. This team has a plethora of prospects.
Imagine if they would have drafted Michkov. Sorry, just had to get that in there. Pierre,
yeah.
Did you hear anything about him not wanting to come to Canada or specifically to go to Philadelphia so we can?
Never once. And I can tell you this right now comfortably. I was scouting a lot at that time. I was supposed to take a long trip into Russia. One of the reasons why was to go see him. And the other reason why is to go see Kuzmenko, who eventually signed with Vancouver and now is in Calgary. I couldn't get a visa to get into the country, but I never heard that. And I'm pretty good friends with numerous people that are working in that league, and I never heard that once.
Pierre, we know what his situation was. Look, and I brought him up earlier today because obviously coming off of the couple of goals that he scored on the weekend, and the only reason why I bring it up is because, following the loss on the weekend, and he scored a couple of goals, some people said, you know what? The knock on the Canadiens right now is with Slafkovsky struggling and with Dach struggling, they can use another player. They can use another talented player. They can use another goal scorer. And so, I brought up Michkov saying, we'll still see what's going to happen 5 years from now, 6 years from now, 7 years from now, 8 years from now. And I hope David Reinbacher has a great career. The Canadiens may end up winning with their draft pick in 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now. But right now, if we have to say something, we have to say that the Canadiens could use an extra forward. They can use some more talent. They can use some more scoring. They can use another weapon. Right now, it would have favored them to take Michkov in 5, 6, 8, 10 years from now. Once again, it might favor them with their Reinbacher selection. But back then, when they were picking, and they were picking 5, and you heard everything, Pierre, he was signed to a KHL contract. It was going to be about 3 years. There was some rumblings that we were hearing about attitude problem or this or that. I'm sure you heard everything, right? Because I don't know who wanted that to filter out there, but it just got out there and it spread like wildfire. Would you have picked them a couple of years ago? Because I don't remember talking to you then, so I don't remember asking you.
Yeah, no, I can tell you straight up, I didn't see him enough. I didn't see him enough live to say that I would have been comfortable.
Okay.
And Tony, I go to a lot of practices. I gauge a lot on coachability and character. It's not hard to see talent. Talent's easy to see. It's the other stuff that I really tried. I'll give you an example. One of the biggest ball drops in Montreal Canadiens history is when they traded Ryan McDonagh. It's one of the biggest misevaluations internally you've ever had in an organization. It was a disaster. And you probably remember I lost it on the radio with Melnick because they were questioning his character. And I'm like, whoever made that evaluation is a complete screwball and should never work in the NHL again.
Yeah.
And, if I'm not comfortable formulating an opinion on a player till I really see a lot of them. Coachability and character matter a lot in terms of how I evaluate. There's so many. Everybody's, this guy's the most. It's so talent's not hard to pick. Talent's easy. It's the other stuff.
Trevor Timmons is a good team guy. He wasn't overly excited about the Montreal Canadiens trading Ryan McDonagh. I can tell you that right now.
I know it wasn't him. I can tell you right now. I know it wasn't him.
Yeah, he wasn't happy about that at all. All right, let's go to Jay. Jay has jumped on the line. Hello, Jay. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Fantastic. What's on your mind?
So I got a couple questions. The first is, after I thank Tony, of course. Pierre, I'm an LCC guy myself, right?
Hey, Jay.
And, how are you, sir?
Good. Thank you for the call.
I know. I love this. I want to hear, and I think that I've started to hear it from the McDonagh stuff, and Tony gets it out of Pierre sometimes, right? But can I just hear you as a fan for 30 seconds? I just, you're very good at saying that you're an analyst, and you are, and you're very even keel. But I'd love to hear a 30-second little bit where you just, how do you feel as a fan about this team, right? Like, just put take the hat off of the analyst, of the Pierre McGuire, the professional guy. Like, do you feel good about this team, or are you scared? Because I think, we've seen what's happened here. I mean, you see this even today. There's a lot of trepidation. You got a lot of good pieces. Do you think that they have that extra missing piece? Anyway, that's it. Yeah, but thank you guys. Love you guys.
Stay around. I'll be the fan for you. I really like the direction that they're going, and this is the most optimistic I've been about this team in a very long time because I know their prospect pool really well. I've watched their American team, league team play quite often, both live and on television. They've got prospects galore in the NCAA. They've got prospects in the BCHL. They've got an amazing goal scorer in Sam Harris out at the University of Denver. I mean, I can go down the line. You want me to be a fan, Jay? I'll be a fan. And I'll tell you right now, they got a whack of guys coming. They've done an amazing job. And I was one of the only people that stood up for a small little defenseman they had by the name of Hutson. And I've been talking about Jacob Fowler for the last 2 years, and he's the real deal. So I'm really – you asked me how I feel as a fan? And I would tell you right now, I feel really good about being a Montreal Canadiens fan. Really good about it.
Mr. Allen said 3 years. Do you agree with him?
What's that now? I'm sorry.
He's saying that yesterday on the Ron Knuckles podcast, live from Palais des Congrès Comic-Con with your buddy Mitch Melnick was his guest yesterday. Chris Nyland said he doesn't think the Montreal Canadiens will make the playoffs for another 3 years. He'd like to have your comment on that.
I respectfully disagree.
Yeah. And so do I, by the way. I believe the Canadiens will make the playoffs next year when Demidov arrives.
I respectfully disagree. And I also think one of the things that's happened with Laine coming to Montreal, Tony made an amazing point before, and it's totally true. People are starting to talk about, maybe Montreal's a pretty good destination to go play.
Mind you, let's be honest here. Kirby Dach is so important to this entire process because if he doesn't turn it around, they'll give him the entire season. They got some time here. They're in a rebuild. If they don't make the playoffs, it's not the end of the world. But at the end of the season, they're going to sit down and they're going to evaluate Kirby Dach. And I'm not so sure they're going to say, okay, let's give him a pass because he's coming back of 1 year off. And so let's give him a pass. I think that if he doesn't turn it around, they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel at the end of the year. They might say, we cannot risk going into another year hoping that Kirby Dach becomes our second line centerman. And they're going to need to go out and get a centerman because you talked about Michael Hage, but you'd have to think he's a couple of years away, Pierre. Oliver Kapanen, you'd have to think he's a couple of years away.
Yeah, but these are all guys that are, future. That's part of a rebuild. The one thing I'd say is I agree with everything you just said, and I'll add one more thing. I think this will be the most aggressive they'll be as a management team this offseason. If things don't materialize with certain players, I think you'll see them be extremely aggressive.
And if they want to be aggressive, if they part ways with David Savard, and if they part ways with Yoel Armia, and if they part ways with Christian Dvorak, and we'll see what happens with Jake Evans, all of them are in the final year of their contract. If they're traded, or most of them are traded, 3 of the 4, or all 4 of the 4 are traded for draft picks or prospects, then the Canadiens are going to be saving a heck of a lot of money. And yes, I know there's some new contracts that'll kick in next year, and Slavkovsky and Kaden Gooley and all that stuff, but they'll save a heck of a lot of money. Let's go to Pierre on the line at 1-888-585-7425. Hello, Pierre. Pierre, are you there?
Hello?
Yes. Is this Pierre on the line?
No, this is Jim.
This is Jim. All right. Sorry about that. I saw Pierre here. Hello, Jim. How are you?
How you doing, Tony?
Very good.
Hey, Jim. How are you?
Well, very well. Thank you. Thanks for taking my call, guys. Pierre, I want to ask you about the Four Nations Cup and our goaltending with Hill, Montembeault, and Binnington. I think Hill is slated to start right now, if I'm not making a mistake. And do you think Montembeault can make a push for that position? And if I could just ask you one more last thing, why do you think there's been such a drop off in the development of Canadian goaltenders? And if you can touch on Jacob Fowler, do you think the hype is real?
Well, first of all, I'll start with Jacob Fowler. It's not hype, it's real. He's as good a prospect as there's been at that position in a very long time. The Canes stole him in the draft when they got him. He was playing in Youngstown, Ohio, playing on a championship team in the USHL, and he's carried it forward to Boston College. He got them to the Frozen Four as a freshman. I've watched them play live 4 times in the rink, whether it was at Northeastern or BC. I'll see him a ton more the rest of this year, and I've watched him on TV probably 3 or 4 other times. He's the real deal. In terms of why I think the Canadian development system for goalies is having a problem right now, Jim, more than anything else, I think the costs. I'm not sure the best athletes are playing goal. I think they're playing other sexier positions maybe. And for whatever reason, I think it's one of those things that's pretty cyclical. I think it'll get adjusted over time, and we'll see great goalies coming through the system again. I really believe that. By the way, a Canadian goalie for the Detroit Red Wings got his first career win tonight, Sebastian Casa. So I think he's one of those good Canadian goalies. He's just a little young right now, but he got his first career win. And then the other question was, where were we? I'm trying to remember the first part of it, Jim.
Can Montembeault be the number one here?
Can Montembeault be? I don't think so, but you never know. Whoever's the hottest guy. And I don't know if Adin Hill's going to be that guy, because you got to remember Binnington's won the Stanley Cup. Well, Adin Hill's won the Stanley Cup too. I just think they probably look at Binnington probably being the number one guy to start. But I think whoever is the hottest will probably get the chance to play. I really
Pierre, about a week ago, Renaud Lavoie of TVA Sports was on BPM Sports Radio, and he gave out some stats making the case for Samuel Montembeault.
Yep.
And the stats were that in Montembeault's wins this season and in games in which the Canadiens led, Montembeault had by far, the best stats in the National Hockey League as far as goals against and save percentage. Now that's in the wins.
Yeah,
okay.
I saw the sheet tonight on the losses where the save percentage is.
Yeah, and that's it goes completely the other way, because they were some of their losses were blowouts, right? There was a lot of games where they gave up 6 goals. I mean, they gave up 6 goals in Boston. They gave up 6 goals versus Pittsburgh. They gave up 6 goals in Washington. They gave up. I'm not so sure. I don't remember if Montembeault played that game. I have to get to it, but they gave up the goals versus Seattle. There was 8 in that game, and he was pulled at one point, but he gave up 5 goals in the second period versus Vegas. So when it goes bad, it goes bad. But when it goes good, he's one of their best players. Like Samuel Montembeault tonight. I mean, I thought the two best Montreal Canadiens tonight were Laine and Montembeault.
Well, Montembeault was there. I mean, a key player. Whenever you win a shootout, the goalie's got to be one of the best players. Yeah. It's not easy to win a shootout in this league. It's pretty hard.
Yeah.
And he didn't give up a goal in the shootout, so I would agree with you on that. Here's what the one thing I'd say is, regardless as to whether he starts, plays, or doesn't even get a minute of play, being in that environment, being with those players, being at those practices, being in that environment, that makes a big difference in your career. It makes a huge difference. The impact is massive. It only helps you. It does not hurt you.
Pierre, before I let you go, and this has been a lot of fun, I want to just point out a couple of stats, all right?
Yep.
Mike Matheson, 27 minutes and 15 seconds again. I saw a tweet tonight. Someone sent me a tweet and said the Canadiens will only get better when they start bringing Mike Matheson's ice time down. But you know what? Mike Matheson was good tonight for the Montreal Canadiens and played 27 minutes and 15 seconds. He wasn't on the score sheet, but you know what? He was not a liability. I can tell you that right now. Nick Suzuki had 20 minutes and 13 seconds. He had an assist in this hockey game. Struggled a little bit in the circle. He was 40% tonight. Caden Gooley, we talked about his 4 hits. Lane Hutson had his assist. Goes with the Montreal Canadiens record books for picking up a point in 7 straight games for a Montreal Canadiens rookie defenseman. Played 25 minutes and 11 seconds. Lane Hutson did tonight. David Savard had 4 block shots. He's a big part of the Montreal Canadiens penalty kill this season. Jake Evans was 56% in the circle, but we'll keep an eye on what happened with Jake Evans, who seemed to be nursing his shoulder. Kirby Dach had a goal in this hockey game, played 16 minutes and 23 seconds, struggled in the face-off circle again, 44%. Patrik Laine had 1 goal, 1 assist. He had 2 points. He had 2 shots on goal. He had 1 attempt blocked. He had 2 missed shots. Patrik Laine was pretty good in this hockey game. So there you have it. Once again, let's bring up the schedule for the rest of the month of December for the Montreal Canadiens if we can. And Actually, let's bring up the stats for tonight's game, and then we'll come back to the schedule if you don't mind, please. Thank you very much. I'm Master Control. Here you have it. 29-21 were the shots on goal for Anaheim. Pierre, I think Anaheim was better than Montreal, but I don't think Montreal stole this one. Your thoughts?
No, Anaheim was better at the tail end of the first period. There was probably a little bit of Montreal ahead in the second. I thought Anaheim was probably pushing a little harder in the third. And in the overtime, I thought Montreal started quickly, and then I thought Anaheim was better as the overtime went along. And then obviously the Canadiens won the shootout, with them getting 2 goals and Laine and Caulfield, and Anaheim not getting any goals.
30 hits for the Anaheim Ducks, 21 hits for the Montreal Canadiens. We talked about hits, and we talked about Radko Gudas had 4 hits in tonight's hockey game. We talked about Jacob Trouba. He had 5 hits in the hockey game. So those 2 guys led the Anaheim Ducks with hits. Gudas had 4. Trouba had 5. Luckily for Montreal, though, they weren't as damaging as Trouba's hit on Justin Barron about a month ago. Troy Terry had 2 goals in this hockey game, 2 points. He was +1. He had 6 shots on goal. He had an attempt blocked. He had 7 missed shots. Wow, what a hockey game for him. He was unbelievable. But now we can bring up the schedule. The Canadiens once again beat the New York Islanders 2-1. They beat Nashville 3-0. They lost on the weekend to the Washington Capitals 4-2. They beat the Anaheim Ducks tonight by a score of 3-2. They will host Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins on Thursday night. By the way, Marty St. Louis has given the boys the day off tomorrow. So day off for the Canadiens tomorrow. They practice on Wednesday. We'll have the morning skate on Thursday, and they host the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then after that, on Friday, the next day, they'll fly out to Winnipeg, where they visit the Jets on Saturday, to come back to Montreal. And 3 nights later, they play the Buffalo Sabres. 3 nights after that, they're in Detroit, then back in Montreal. And then they go to Columbus a couple of nights after that. And they'll finish off the month of December with 3 games and 4 nights. That won't be easy. A 1:00 start on December 28th, the Saturday. A 5 p.m. start on the December 29th in Tampa. That's the Sunday. And then on the Tuesday, a 3 p.m. start in Vegas. Pierre, you have the schedule in front of you. What do you make of it?
Well, this is where they can go on a run. We talked about it last week. I thought the schedule was very formidable, but in a positive way for the Canadiens because of the home games, because of the one-hitter to Winnipeg. It's not a hard time zone travel. It's only an hour difference. It's not that long a flight, 2.5 hours, maybe 3, depending on the winds. So now this home ice, and who knows what's going to be going on with Detroit or Buffalo. I'm not going to speculate about coaching jobs. I'm not going to talk about trades, but you would have to think both those organizations are thinking about making some pretty significant changes, and that's what you'll be facing next week. So we'll see how it all plays out. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. They can give themselves a huge Christmas present. I don't see why they can't run the table until the 23rd of December. I really don't.
Wow. Pierre, would you mind if we take a couple of questions?
Of course not. Let's go.
All right. Okay. So let's go. Why don't we take 5 of them? Pierre-Luc Lassalle with question number 1. Question for Pierre. Would you try playing Laine on another 5v5 line since all his goals come on the power play?
I would, Pierre-Luc, and I'd put him with Caulfield and Suzuki. I really would.
Pierre, I was going to say with the risk of all your goals coming from one line, but they're only coming from one line now anyway. So what's the difference?
Here's the other thing, and they're coming on the power play a lot. But here's the thing: look at all the home games outside of that one hitter to Winnipeg, and the back-to-back with Detroit, home and home. You don't have to worry about matchups. You're in charge of the ice. So I don't know why it's such a big problem loading up on home ice. I would try it anyway, especially against Pittsburgh.
Question number 2. Matrix is real. Is it possible to sign Laine long-term right now?
I wouldn't.
Yeah. The sample size is small.
I wouldn't.
Yeah. Sample size is small. By the way, can you sign more than a year and a half out?
No.
No, you have to wait till.
But I still, even if you could, I would not.
Question 3. Joel Kravitz, Pierre, how far away is Logan Mailloux from becoming a bona fide NHLer, and who else might be ready to make the next step? Will David Reinbacher be JS's project or be an NHLer? What's JS? What am I missing here?
I don't know, but I'm prepared to talk about Logan Logan's an NHL player. I talked to AHL coaches, and one of them told me, get him out of the league. He's too good. And I've watched him play so much. Yeah, he's a bona fide NHL. He needs to improve his down low coverage. He gets a little over aggressive, so he needs to be a little bit more stable and not as high risk in terms of trying to make slick passes coming out of his own zone. But he's big, he's strong, he can absolutely wire the puck with a quick release. He's an NHL player. I do think Ryan Backer is going to be an everyday NHL player. People misunderstand. He was injured. He's a growth type player. He's playing in a man's league in Switzerland, in Cloton, which is a very good program. So no, I think the Canadiens are well on their way with significant prospects on defense as well.
I hope so. I don't know if it was a Jaden Struble projection. I'm not so sure.
That could be JS, could be Jaden Struble. Look at Brian Backer and Struble are far different players. I still think Struble's got huge upside for this team. I really do.
Okay, a couple more. Jeremy says Primo was 933 in Northeastern, Fowler's 936. What happened to Primo, or is Fowler overhyped?
No, you never should use those stats in college hockey because year to year. So Boston College doesn't have a lot of older players. They got a lot of younger players. Northeastern's got a lot of older players. So those are very misleading stats. The fact that Boston College even got to the Frozen Four last year with basically an all-freshman team and a sophomore team. Cutter Gauthier left. I mean, that was an amazing thing what he did. So no, Jacob Fowler's not overhyped at all. The one thing I'd say, with all due respect, I understand the research and I appreciate it. I would not use numbers when I'm evaluating goalies in college hockey.
Stefan in Quebec City, who gave you a call last week, Pierre, says, Pierre, do you think Arbor Jackeye can be a number 4?
I think anything's possible, but I think he's probably better suited 5-6. But he could be. I mean, you just got to continue to grow. He's on that growth plane that we're talking about, the same one that Jaden Struble's on.
Pierre, when the Canadiens won the Stanley Cup in 1993, they had a pretty tough defenseman by the name of Lyle Odeline, and I'm sure you remember him
very well.
If you would compare Odeline and Jackeye, similarities?
Some. Odie had a better ability to move the puck than Arbor right now, but very similar in terms of toughness.
Jacques Laperriere did a lot of work with him.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, people don't realize there was a lot of, whether it was Sylvain Lefebvre, whether it was Lyle Odeline, you go look at a lot of the guys that played in Montreal when Pat Burns was here and Jacques Laperriere, or I should say, were there. They made a big difference. They developed a lot of players. So it's a little bit different right now.
All right. I think we passed 5, but Pierre, all right.
Okay.
All right. Keep going. They keep asking for more. All right. Okay. Let's go. Christopher says the Canadiens need a backup goalie. Who would you target in a trade?
I don't know. They might have the answer in Laval.
Jakub Dobish?
Maybe.
I love him.
Maybe.
Next. Jay Greenwood. Should we offer $12 million to Mikko Rantanen?
Is he available, or are you talking about?
Well, he's going to be.
I see what you're saying. So next year,
could possibly be an unrestricted free agent.
Well, until he is, I'm not going to talk about that because I don't want my buddy Joe Sakic mad at me.
Well,
here's what I'd say: I would love to have Mikko Rantanen on my team,
and I'd love to have a Joe Sakic jersey now that I know he's your buddy.
You know what, Tony? I love
Joe Sakic so much. He was so great.
I'm going to text him tomorrow and ask him, and then I'll forward you the text.
I love them so much. He was such a great player.
He was a Can I tell you a quick Joe Sakic story?
Please do. What a wrist shot and clutch, eh? Clutch.
Very much. So he was a young player. I was coaching in the All-Star game in Philadelphia, and in those days, the coaches would go on the ice for the skills competition. So I skated up to Joe and I said, hey, Joe, the boss, meaning Scotty Bowman, he wants you in the shootout. And Joe goes, no. I'm the youngest guy here. No chance should I be doing the shootout. Let Ray Ferraro do it. He's got like 600 goals in junior hockey, and he's a way better scorer than me. So I went to Scott. I said, Joe doesn't want to do it. He wants Ray Ferraro to do it. I go, okay, let him do it. No problem. So anyways, Ray went and he didn't score. So I went to Joe. I go, just stay away from the boss. He might be mad because in those days, if you won the skills competition, you got a bonus. And we lost the skills. We didn't get the bonus. Scotty was ticked off on the bus going back to the hotel.
What? Some of those hockey conversations that we used to have back in the day, and we still have them, me and my buddies. But this one used to come up often, right? Sakic or Yzerman.
Yeah.
And you know what? It was Sack thing on Yzerman, Sakic, Yzerman.
You couldn't go wrong with either guy, right?
Two great players, two different players. Both centermen who wore number 19, right? A lot of similarities in their game, but they were different, though.
They were different. They were really different.
More questions. Matrix is real. Is Slafkovsky a game breaker?
Not right now, no.
Okay, so I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Would you have given Slafkovsky that 8-year contract, or would you have gone with a bridge?
No, I don't. I really feel comfortable on this, and if I'm wrong, I'll admit it. Bridges on players that you think have a chance. This is all, looking down the road. I think when you bridge players that you think internally are going to be star players, it costs you tens of millions of dollars. I think if you can lock at a certain cost certainty rate, you do that. Everybody's got their own opinion, though.
And by the way, I agree with you 1,000%. And there's a lot of people right now who are probably saying, the bridge would have been so much better. Once you make the determination that a player is in your core players, you want to lock up that player for the max term as long as possible.
Absolutely.
And if they bridge Slafkovsky, and he had a year last year where he had 20 goals, 30 assists, and 50 points, and in that bridge, he goes to 30 goals the next year and to 40 goals the year after, he's gonna cost you $11 million after. He's not going to cost you $7.6
million.
Yeah. Next question. Tony Marinaro. Pierre, can Michael Hage be the future second line centerman behind Suzuki if Kirby Dach doesn't pan out?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So, Pierre, this is incredible, because I know that the draft is not a perfect science, and some draft years are stronger than others.
Yep.
So you just said that the guy that was drafted 21st can be the second line centerman if the guy who was drafted third doesn't pan out. But this is the beauty of the draft, that the guy who's the first line centerman in the Montreal Canadiens right now was drafted 13th by Vegas. So look at that.
Hey, listen, Joe Thornton was a first overall pick.
Yes.
And he got punted by the Boston Bruins in maybe one of the most lopsided trades in NHL history.
Yeah, that was a dumb move. They made him the scapegoat for their failures versus the Canadiens in the playoffs.
How mistakes happen. Marcus Naslund was traded to the Vancouver Canucks for a player by the name of Alex Stoyanov. It's one of the worst trades in Pittsburgh Penguin history. And the reason why he got traded, Scotty Bowman went to Detroit, Barry Smith went to Detroit, and I went to Hartford. And so all the people who are responsible for trying to bring him into the organization were gone. He didn't have a godfather. So like, you know what? Let's just move along. So that's how mistakes get made.
Yeah. Isn't that something? Wow. What a deal that was.
What a deal. For Vancouver, it was amazing.
So we talked about that trade, and the trade before that we talked about was, once again, hold on a second. Now, how did this all start? Who were we talking about in terms of the trade? I lost it here. Before the Naslund deal, who was the trade that we were talking about?
Marcus Naslund. Who was that? Yeah.
Anyway, okay, forget it. You know, we brought up something, and we were talking about the trade. The Joe Thornton deal. The Joe Thornton deal. Thank you.
Joe Thornton. Yeah.
So I remember being in Boston when Kevin Paul on the day of Game 7 between the Canadiens and the Bruins. You'll remember this, Pierre. And Kevin Paul DuPont of the Boston Globe wrote an article that Joe Thornton wasn't the leader in the Boston Bruins, and he was not the captain on that hockey team. And there's a couple of players in that locker room that told him that he was not the leader and he was not the captain. And I remember that morning skate in the locker room. After the morning skate, all the members of the media went into the locker room, and all they asked every single player about was, is Joe Thornton the captain of this hockey team? Is Joe Thornton a good leader? Is Joe Thornton unanimous in this locker room? And the players were rattled. And my buddies called me you're in Boston. What's going on this night? I said, guys, the Canadiens are going to win this game tonight. Guys, the Canadiens are going to win this game tonight. I just felt the Bruins were rattled. Kevin Paul Dupont came out with that article on the morning of Game 7 between the Canadiens and the Bruins. And then once the Canadiens beat them, and by the way, Sacco did really well against Joe Thornton, right? But Sacco did really well against the Boston Bruins too. The Boston Bruins' problem wasn't Joe Thornton. The Boston Bruins' problem was they probably needed a couple more Joe Thorntons.
Or a Sacco Koivu.
Or a Sacco Koivu.
Maybe Sacco.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about the draft, though. You know, Patrice Bergeron was a second-round pick because a lot of people didn't think he could skate. Shea Weber was a second-round pick because a lot of people didn't think he could pass the puck. You know, Joe Pavelski went 205th in the 2003 draft because people thought he was too small and he couldn't skate. You know, there's so many mistakes made at the draft all the time. There's so many.
Pierre, we've gone overtime a lot longer than the Montreal Canadiens and the Anaheim Ducks did. But I know, look, I had an eye on the chat, and I know that everyone really wanted us to stay on. And so we did. And I think we gave them what they wanted. And the Montreal Canadiens gave them what they wanted tonight with a 3-2 win in overtime. It went to a shootout. And the Canadiens in the shootout got goals by Patrik Laine and Cole Caulfield. Both their goal scorers. People went to the Bell Center to watch those guys score goals. And goals they did. Patrik Laine with a 2-point night scores a big goal on the power play. And the Montreal Canadiens win the hockey game once again. 3-2 in the shootout. Pierre, we're going to do this again on Thursday night versus your former team, the Pittsburgh Penguins?
That's correct, sir.
All right. Special thanks for you reaching out to Joe Sakic for that jersey. And while you're at it,
I will do it tomorrow.
Maybe place a call to Yarmir and Mario as well. Ciao, Pierre. Thanks for doing this. All right. There you have it. Special thanks to all of you for watching on YouTube and on Facebook. And special thanks to all of you for your engagement. Much appreciated. We hope we are your number one Montreal Canadiens post-game show, Montreal Canadiens podcast in the world. And if so, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple. It's our way of feeling the love. Special thanks to all of our sponsors, Energy Transportation Group, to Bittt at Tibi, to Betway, to Playground, and to Accent Insurance Solutions. You know, all insurance isn't created equal. You know where to find the right solution for you. It's Accent Insurance. Accent doesn't sell insurance. They shop it for you to find the right product right on the money, whatever your insurance needs. Home, automobile, or business, check out their website, www.accentassurance.com. Call them, 514-363-3636. I'll be back tomorrow night, same time, same place. It's the Sick Podcast. Special thanks to Daniello and Sammy at Master Control. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVie.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.